theoretically. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of KLF Deep Dive. We're here with the amazing Elizabeth Malson, and she is at Exec Echo, but she's going to tell us a little bit more about herself. We're going to talk about personal branding, having a LinkedIn page, what are the legal reasons why people shouldn't, and then the real reasons why you should, and how those two things come together. Because it would be extremely disingenuous of me to don't go on LinkedIn, because the truth is I spend most of my day on LinkedIn. But before we get started, Elizabeth, tell us more about yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. I have been in biopharma, medtech, and devices for more than 15 years, leading global commercial teams. I did my early leadership development and kind of project management work at Medtronic, Roche, Dentsply. Recently, I've been on executive leadership teams at Curia and some of the other companies. And so I have spent the last 5 years building out personal brands as part of being a chief marketing officer for the executives and the executive teams. And I have now spent the last year doing it for myself and hitting all of the landmines that we're going to talk about today.
So you talk about landmines. So I'm going to start by telling you the landmines I think about. And I go, you know what? When you come on and you represent yourself on LinkedIn, how do we clarify that you're speaking for yourself and not for the company? Because let's be honest, I'm not usually worried about the CEO, though. Let's be honest, I do have to worry about the CEO because they often think that there are no limits to their powers. And I get that, but you're also where the buck stops. So I have to worry about your executives going, I can say anything and then someone else will figure out how to clean up the mess. And you and I have both been in that scenario. On the other hand, I also worry about the salespeople and the marketing people. And they're often going, I'm talking for myself. I want to talk about how amazing this product is because that's what I spent all of my time on. And I truly believe this stuff is game-changing. And I go, yes, you believing that it's game-changing allows you to speak off-label, and that makes everyone worried. And yesterday's news, I was kind of going through this interesting analysis. It's now not just the Trump administration is starting to target companies that show a quote-unquote intended use of a product being used for an off-label for an off-label use. So it's now what we used to say till very, very recently was off-label communications are not okay, but off-label use is okay. With the new targeting of transgender kids and under what's called the SAU memo, the Justice Department is taking the position that we have a problem with off-label use as well if the intended use was always for that off-label use. So that's going to create all new problems. So if you're going onto LinkedIn and you're saying, my product is incredible, and there's communications out there saying you guys were always targeting that off-label use, this is now evidence of that off-label use, and it's going to come back to bite not just you, but the entire company. So that's the genesis. That's the start. Now that I've scared everyone, Elizabeth, talk to me about why I'm wrong.
So it's all about creating the right swim lanes, right? If you are promoting the company's products, if you are part of the C-suite team, there's probably a good argument that you should only do that through your marketing and communications platforms to mitigate that risk explicitly, right? Just don't do it, right? Don't try to promote your company's products if they're regulated. But where you should be in your swim lane is who you are in that company as a person, as a contributor. You can talk about medtech finance. You can talk about medtech venture capital and the pressures that you have in your department meetings. You can talk about the latest marketing trends, what's working in your sales. You should be able to talk about that stuff and really be able to have those conversations in a safe way.
I have a question before you continue.
Yeah.
Who is the audience to this conversation? Is it the C-suite when you ask this question, or is it also the rank and file?
It depends on who you are, where you are in your career.
Okay. So
yeah.
The reason I'm asking this question is I'm thinking of the rank and file, new sales rep coming in. Are they really talking about financing, or are we really talking? Go ahead.
They're talking about sales. Like, what are they doing every day? Talk about from where you come from. But even a sales rep is only going to be able to be comfortable talking about this stuff if they understand the rules. And that right there is the number one thing we as leaders in any organization, or even if you're rank and file at any organization, talk to your marketing and communication leadership team about a personal brand policy. The social media policy is what we've all lived on. You're not allowed to talk about us. Please repost our company content. Please repost our press releases. Nobody's reading that stuff anymore. We've been saturated. So what are the rules? Am I allowed to talk about, as a sales rep, I just met this amazing doctor who shared they're having a challenge about patient compliance. Is that in the rules or is that not in the rules, right? You're not talking about a product, you're talking about a personal experience. If you're in the finance team, right? We just had this incredible conversation about pricing. We know in the United States that, product pricing is expensive. We're going direct to consumer. What does that mean? What am I learning? These are the things we are all thirsty for at every level of our career, but there's no personal policy document that says what you can and can't do in how your leadership are going to view you if you're suddenly public and promoting yourself.
So I love the examples you picked. So we'll pick a couple of these and talk through them. You talked about how, for example, you walked into a doctor's office and you talked about this patient, how you were able to help them possibly with the drug you are promoting. The part I would be careful of is, number one, how did you get that patient's information? Do you now have HIPAA content? And I would tell you, please be careful. Do not get HIPAA content. And the number of times sales rep just kind of go, yeah, I'm going to roll my eyes. The Department of No came out and said that you can't talk about something. Lawyers always get that. And I get it, but just be careful. The next thing you talked about, for example, was pricing. And when you're talking about pricing, the part you have to be careful of is, don't go out there and say, here's the trick to get your stuff priced, to get your stuff reimbursed. Because let's be honest, we've seen them do that too. And again, that's a False Claims Act violation. And then there's DTP, which is full of different landmines that you've got to avoid. So how do you guide that process? You're talking about creating a personal brand policy. Truth is, when my experience with sales and marketing is, you make a rule, they find a way around that rule because they are so smart, they are so creative. Their point is, you're telling me I need to sell. You create a rule, I'm going to find a way around that rule so I can keep selling. Yep. So help me think through that process.
So everything has to do with training.
Okay.
Right. Sales reps are trained. Don't say any of these things in any place where it's written, it's recorded. Don't even say no comment if somebody asks you a question, because no comment is a comment, right? We are training them that the easiest risk path for the company is to say nothing. And that is great for the company, right? But the downside, even for the company, is if you have a company of, let's say, 10,000 employees and none of them are saying anything on LinkedIn, you completely miss what organic reach could be. So it's training. It's not just saying, I have a personal brand policy document. Those are the rules. It's the training of why you should not break them, how you should not break them. And it's delivering an employee ambassador kit that says, these are your tools. And so that's what I did for one company. I started with the CEO, did their brand. He's like, now do my executive team. I did all their stuff. Now roll it out as an ambassador kit. Okay, great. I go to the CFO, who on your team is excited about being on LinkedIn. I work with them. I come up with about 50 posts that are approved. That goes in the finance kit. You do it for marketing, you do it for sales, you do it for communication, you do it for quality, you do it for regulatory. Now you've got 200 plus quote approved posts, and then you train your team how to comment on them when they post it. So one person isn't posting or reposting what's on the company page that has very limited reach. They grab that from their toolkit, add a couple of comments that they know are authentic about their view, safe topics, and then they go. And now you've created an army of compliant 1,000 people at your company posting different types of content every quarter.
So I love what you're saying, because I think that's something that someone in legal and compliance can live with, this idea of this pre-approved library of words. Here's my experience. That's all well and good, but wouldn't this sentence look just cooler if I said X instead of Y? And if I went in and said, this doesn't feel authentic to my tone, this doesn't feel cool. The company uses Instagram, but I want to use TikTok. I do it with a little dance and suddenly it's all good. How do you balance this customization, this individualization of wanting to put out content in a way that's authentic to the sales rep or the CEO, and yet is compliant and is yet consistent with the personal brand and the company brand?
Well, this comes into wisdom and professionalism, right? All of us have gone through embarrassing moments earlier in our careers, right? You know, I don't know why I remember this, right? I had a jacket and I didn't know what to do with it. So I set it on the floor instead of folding it neatly in my lap. And I was embarrassed because they looked at me like, what are you doing? You're throwing your clothes on the floor, right? And it's just these nuanced things that you have no idea when you're early in your career on social norms and behaviors and professionalism. So it's training, and it's literally making sure you have the engagement of the leadership team of each department. And potentially, if you're going to roll this out, you need to have a social media person dedicated to being the leader of this, review these posts, make sure they are okay, train the people who need to be trained, and acknowledge that if you're going to get the win of all of these employees talking, you will carry some of the risk. So have a plan and a process in place to manage that risk and protect the people who are willing to put themselves out there and learn through this process. And as a marketing person, and this is going to make people crazy because we're in medtech, we can't make mistakes in medtech. But in every other industry, the intern or even the CEO have had social media gaffes. We have. They're out there. It's going to happen. We move so fast. There's going to be some risk.
Here's what I'm going to tell you that most people are afraid to say from a compliance standpoint.
Yeah.
The truth is, we're expecting mistakes. We know that mistakes will happen. In fact, the Department of Justice, the FDA, OIG are all saying, if you do an audit and you don't find mistakes, how good was your audit in the first place? Yep. So the fact is, everyone knows that everyone is human. No one's expecting 100% matching of sort of goals with results. What do you do when the mistakes happen? Do you go out there and say, we're going to correct? Do you go out there and say, we're going to retrain? Not everything is a retrain, by the way. For some reason, everyone thinks that, you know what? You said the wrong thing. We're going to make you sit through another hour of listening to us talk. That's not helping anyone. Have a clearer policy. Have something that people can refer back to. You have AI. Learn to examine the AI. Make it a resource for you as you move forward. I haven't seen this done, Elizabeth, but I'm curious if you would be an advocate for this. I'm afraid even suggesting this, to be honest. But you've seen NotebookLM. What if you took your brand policy, put it into NotebookLM, and now said, here's the list of my SOPs, here's my brand policy. You sales reps need to ask the LLM if you can do A, B, and C before you do it. This way we know that you're consistent with the policy. I'm not going to give you the good and the bad version from my perspective, then you tell me your version. The good news is now we have a central repository of knowledge. The bad news is now you have a central repository of all the shitty questions that people should not have been asking the whole time. But what's your take?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I create all my content. I handwrite it. I throw it into Claude. Am I going to offend people, and how and who? And if it's not my audience and it doesn't connect with, I'm okay with that, because I would rather be interesting to the right opportunities and people than bored and not engaging with anyone. Right. And so I do that. And I think that's where AI can help with creativity and individualism. It's not great at writing content unless it has a database to pull from. And so that's what you're talking about. Create the database, create the tools, create the training, create the protocol and process, have somebody who's accountable for it in each department, somebody in communications or marketing who's accountable for overall. And this is the channel to unlock at low cost for 2026.
I love how you're tying it into 2026, but you said something I've never seen done before. I don't even know if it's true. So I'm curious if you just gave that as an example, or if it's really how you use it. Did you really go, here's what I want to say, who will I offend? And you asked Claude that question? That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. You have to in marketing. Oh my gosh. AI slop. I mean, we are all inundated with content that is really not interesting, or it's got that same rhythm to it. If you work with AI content, you can see it a mile away. And so the idea to be able to be kind of authentic and interesting means you have to say something, say anything, take a position. I'm not saying be unprofessional. Never be unprofessional, but you have to have a hot take. And I've had a couple of hot takes and then people have changed my mind in the comments, right? But you have to have something that's interesting to talk about. You know, a lot of people start posting on LinkedIn with the news, their take on the news. And I think that's great. We're all going to get tired of that pretty quickly, but that's great. Great place to start, safe place to start. But then, you know, what do you think about the new trend, right? I use AI to double check me, but I don't use AI to write because I'm still a better writer than AI. But am I keeping all of my writing I did in 2025 and I'm doing this year in 2026? Because at some point, AI might be good enough to take my repository of content and create something that I'm okay with. I'm hopeful, right? But you have to say something. If you're just going to go out there and be vanilla, it's going to, you know, it's
so here's my question. So surprise, surprise, marketing is saying be provocative and compliance is saying please don't. So that never happens. But
right.
but here's the question. In the end, the truth is legal knows that you need to have a brand and marketing knows you need to be compliant. So it's as much as we're taking the opposite side, the fact is that we know that we have to work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
The question then becomes, how do you, when you create these brand guides, these ambassador kits, I love that term, ambassador kits. How do you help them create these? What does that structure look like?
So when I'm working with a team, I really just have a whole bunch of quite honest questions. Like, what are you working on right now? What challenges are you facing? I can
I'll give you an example. Let's play this out.
Yeah.
I am the CEO of a early stage company. Let's say I'm a phase 2A. So I'm not quite in 2B. I haven't quite gotten I'm still doing my efficacy studies, but there's something there.
Yeah.
I know I need to start making a presence known because I need investments. Walk me through what I need to do.
Awesome.
And why is Elizabeth the right person to guide me?
So you got a couple of things in there, right? If you know you're going to need more investment, then you need to have a C-suite that has an audience for investors. And that content kit build for them is targeted to that audience, right? But you also need to prime the market. So you can then release an ambassador kit to the rest of your company that talks about the disease state. Start telling stories about the challenges real people are facing. Start talking about what is unique about the science. Start talking about why quality is going to be so important for whatever the delivery modality is. All of those things are just talking about what's happening with you every day at work, right? If you're in supply chain, right, we're talking about labeling. What are the challenges and trade-offs we're doing in labeling? We're working with the FDA. What do we learn? Because things are changing at the FDA so fast. None of that is selling. It's building relationships with a target audience for trust. So different departments are going to have different target audiences. C-suite, usually investors. Marketing is probably going to be, you know, whether the modality is direct to patient, like some of these direct manufacturing straight to patients, then you might start trying to build an audience of people who are living with that therapeutic issue, right? You may have people in supply chain. Well, their audience is going to be maybe CDMOs and CROs. Well, their messaging is going to talk about things in that industry. So you can create an entire toolkit that delivers on your company's brand promise, because it's not what you say you are, it's how everybody at your company interacts and represents themselves in their daily job. That is your brand, whether you agree with it or not.
I love that. Now here's my question for you. You're talking about CEO, C-suite, who has visibility into how the company's running, who have true visibility into why this matters. I know several friends of mine, very, very dear friends, who go, I just want to clock in and I want to clock out. They don't want to use LinkedIn. They hate LinkedIn. They think it's full of slop. I don't even blame them. The number of self-congratulatory posts on there is ridiculous. But the only time they use LinkedIn is when they lose the job and they're looking for the next job and they're going, it's a bunch of self-congratulatory posts. I don't know why I'm on there. It's a bunch of garbage. I don't want to be on LinkedIn. They'll complain about it. They'll be on there as long as it takes to get a job, and then they move out again. What do you say to those people? Do you say they need a personal brand, or is there a part of this stage, phase 2A company, where not having a personal brand is okay? Or is this an all hands on deck situation?
I think it depends on your personality, right?
Okay.
Don't sign up for something that you're going to hate. Like, we all have enough chores in our life, whatever that may be. So don't put more on yourself. It's not, right? You're not going to do it, right? Just don't, right? If it's not you, it's not you. If you don't need it, you don't need it. If you are looking at what's been happening across all sectors of the economy, across all industries, and seeing that no matter where you work, whether you work in a government job or you work in the private sector, you work for venture capital, you work for public firms, that job stability is less. And that motivates you to say, I need to figure out a way to differentiate. And I'm going to do that by sharing my expertise in a professional way. And then do it. If your company has policies that help you support your company and support yourself, then do it. And so it's really not about, is it all or nothing? I think it's a personal choice whether you can engage and feel good on LinkedIn after 60 days, or if you look at this and you go, this isn't my jam, I'm out. Because LinkedIn is the only social media platform where you can spend years giving away expertise and content, and you'll never make $1 off of it as an influencer. The most you get is relationships.
And that's worth more. I mean, I can say this. I've gotten jobs off of LinkedIn. I've gotten speaking arrangements off of LinkedIn. So if you are looking at, can I make an extra 25 cents because I did a TikTok dance? LinkedIn's not your platform. But can I make an extra $100,000 because I got a new job? I got a job because of that. I got a job because I didn't do a dance, but I had enough content in LinkedIn where people are going, I want to talk to you. And that's the difference in LinkedIn.
I as well. For me, and the key takeaway I share with everyone, LinkedIn is not actually your posts. It's the reach you get from your comments, and it's whatever you are doing in your direct messages and actually connecting with real people. Your post metrics are all vanity. Your reach metric, your views, your clicks, your likes, it's all vanity. Are you having real conversations and getting something out of it in your direct messages and people contacting you because they want to hang out with you and work with you?
So how do you, so I love what you're saying. In the end, it's not about those vanity metrics, and it's about these metrics that matter. So what are the metrics that matter? How do you identify key metrics for a company and for the individual?
Yeah, so for a company, I break it down into different departments. C-suite might be doing complex sales and connecting with other CEOs to help their sales team have access, right? That might be their metric and what they're doing and who they're targeting. Supply chain might be, CROs and CDMOs. People who are selling healthcare benefits might be going after the VP as a way to get to the CHRO. Every department is going to optimize for something different for a company. And then the question comes in, are your employees getting those relationships? Are you able to have those connections? Can you now reach out to somebody that you couldn't reach out to before and get through what I call the spam barrier? When you first start on LinkedIn, there's a spam barrier. Your feed is garbage because the algorithm doesn't know who you are or what you want. Your connections are probably everybody from business school down to that intern who's no longer in the industry. You have to do the work to clean it up. Does your profile represent who you are and your keywords? You have to invest in LinkedIn up front to get through that garbage. I see so many posts and people complain about my DMs are a mess. I can't relate. My DMs aren't a mess. I took the time to block everybody, delete everybody, only connect with the right people. And 9 out of 10, my DMs are somebody I kind of want to talk to. And so it takes an upfront lift. It's not going to magically work if you don't have the investment in who are you targeting, what are you talking about, what are you trying to get? So it's brand awareness. In a world of SaaS, where marketing used to sell everything online in an e-commerce platform and go from an ad directly to an e-commerce sale, we want to apply those metrics to brand awareness in complex situations. They don't translate. Either you believe in it and you kind of commit to 9 months or a year, or at 60 days, you're annoyed and you're out.
So this is really interesting to me because you're talking about a completely different way of thinking about LinkedIn. 2 years ago, maybe even 2 months ago, I would think of LinkedIn as where you do your sales. I've personally been seeing a change in how I react to LinkedIn. You're kind of also saying the same thing, which is LinkedIn is the way you try to get them off LinkedIn. So you want to connect with people to build those relationships, and you're not going to build them with 50 posts. You're not going to build them by 15 people going, I like that idea. No one cares. That's a vanity metric. The question is, did you connect with them? Did you finally have a sale? So those people going, I have 40,000 people who see me on LinkedIn. Good for you. But what does that mean? If you can monetize on YouTube, you can monetize on TikTok, cannot monetize in the same way on LinkedIn. So be careful with that. So if all this is true, you're saying clean your message. You're saying have a clean profile before you start messaging people. But that sounds counterintuitive. And the reason it sounds counterintuitive to me is, number one, I'm going, are you saying that every single time I change from working in a pharma company to a CRO, from a CRO to a med tech, I should clean up my LinkedIn list? Because that just seems like, why would I? That seems horrible. But it does provide for a cleaner message. How do you reconcile those two?
So if you're under like 1,000, just keep all of your connections. When you start getting somewhere between 3,000, what I did is I picked a letter of the alphabet and I slowly went through and I cleaned out people who weren't my target market. I defined my LinkedIn audience as medtech, health tech, anything healthcare, vice president, C-suite investor. I will always accept those connection requests. That's my audience. Do I accept other people? Absolutely. Do I have a couple interesting things? Absolutely. It's not 100%, but I did take out, 400 of my MBA colleagues. Great people. They're not really in my industry, right? A lot of the interns, that's an example because it's a real one. I have lots of interns who kind of came into the industry, left. I have friends who have retired. I will take them out if they're no longer active. And so I spend a little bit of time investing in that at about the 3,000 follower mark. And then who I genuinely reach out to connect with and accept requests from becomes that group of people. And so now when I look at my followers and my connections, it's very tight. It's an audience. It's not a professional platform for me. It is a business platform of my audience in my industry.
Here's what I'm going to say. That's brutal. That's brutal. It is, but it's very clear who your audience is. But now what happens if someone like you, very successful, has reached a certain point in their career? I hear friends of mine going, I worked in technology 20 years ago. I'm now in pharma, but if my next job is still tech, I'll take it. Me eliminating the people from my tech world because I've moved into pharma, that might come back to bite me in 5 years, because the truth is I'll probably be 50, and whether or not I like it, there is a certain amount of discrimination, and I need to keep my options open. So what do you say to that?
Do it. Like, you don't have to clean it out. It's just going to bifurcate your audience, right? The algorithm is going to see that you have these two audiences, which is fine if you're posting and engaging on one of those, right? Mm-hmm. The algorithm will just ignore and maybe not share it with the people who aren't going to be interested in that content. That's absolutely fine. A lot of people also get later in their career and want to give back in a certain way. Well, I really care about, saving the earth and doing things that help our environment, and I'm going to post about that. Okay, great. That's just a different audience. Or I want to give back to young entrepreneurs who are working in this particular segment, which is different. Great. It's just know that it's going to split your audience, which is fine. That's how audiences are supposed to grow, right? Gary Vee started out talking about wine and then became this marketing guy and then became a business guru, right? You can't expand. It's just going to impact those vanity metrics. But if you're still connecting in real life, in direct messages, it's fine. But if you're really wanting to use your LinkedIn account for sales, the tighter you can make it, the better it's going to work for you.
So we're running out of time. I feel like we just started, but we're running out of time already. Any parting words before we let go? Like, tell people about Exec Echo and tell people why they need to reach out to you.
So if you're believing that you want to have your own brand, control your reputation, have all these opportunities, have doors open to you, like we both said, people have reached out to us and it's turned into work, it's turned into great friendships and relationships, then invest in LinkedIn. If you know you're not going to love it, you can hire someone like me. I work with you through all of the process and the steps. I ghostwrite stuff, get you on your feet until you feel really comfortable with it, and kind of help get over some of those landmines we talked about. But at the end of the day, it's the decision that I've made is I want to be conference famous, not airport famous. It's the difference.
What are those two differences? What is the difference between conference famous and airport famous?
Right? Don't recognize me at the airport because I'm an influencer, because I'm a thought leader, or not even thought leader. I'm like an influencer. I'm so generic, you could recognize me at the airport. I travel very comfortably and do not want to be recognized at the airport. I sure don't want to be recognized in my family, right? But I want to be conference famous. So if I'm walking around and, you know, we're in the hallway together, hey, Liz, I see you on LinkedIn. I really want to talk about something. I want to be conference famous.
I love it. I don't know if you have this, but I think that should be the tagline for Exec Echo. Making you conference famous, not airport famous.
Right?
Elizabeth, this was amazing. We're going to do this again for those people who enjoyed this conversation. Reach out to Elizabeth, reach out to me, and we hope we're going to have a chance to work together to help guide companies. But if not, please work with Elizabeth, and she will be able to guide you on many, many things I couldn't even begin to guide you on. So thank you all, and stay tuned for more from KLF Deep Dive.